Sacred serpent eggs. Imagine walking through a misty Celtic forest at dawn. A hooded figure crouches by a stream, carefully collecting what appear to be smooth, star-patterned stones. These weren't ordinary rocks. They were what Druids called serpent eggs, believed to be formed when snakes gathered in writhing masses, their venom and breath creating magical objects of immense power. In reality, these were likely fossilized sea urchins, their five-pointed star patterns resembling mystical symbols. The Romans documented Druids wearing these as amulets, believing they could protect against poison, disease, and grant victory in legal disputes. One account tells of a Druid who convinced a Roman governor that his serpent egg could float against the current of a river, and remarkably, the demonstration worked. What's fascinating is how these objects bridge the natural and supernatural worlds for Druids. They believed serpent eggs formed during the second moon of summer, when cosmic forces align. To collect one, a Druid had to catch it in mid-air before it touched the ground, then flee on horseback as the serpent supposedly gave chase. The collector would only be safe once crossing running water, which serpents couldn't traverse. Scientific analysis of these artifacts shows they were often mounted in precious metals and worn close to the heart. Some were found buried with high-status individuals, suggesting they maintained their power even in the afterlife. The serpent egg represents perfectly how Druids saw magic, not as something separate from nature, but as the hidden power within it, waiting for those with knowledge to harness. Skull surgery. In a darkened roundhouse, illuminated only by firelight, a Druid leans over a patient, carefully applying a bronze tool to the skull. This isn't fiction, it's archaeological fact. Skulls discovered across former Celtic territories show evidence of trepanation, the deliberate creation of holes in the cranium, performed with remarkable precision. What's most astonishing is that many of these skulls show healing around the edges, proving the patient survived this procedure. The Druids, it seems, were skilled surgeons long before modern medicine. They used specialized bronze and iron tools, some of which have been recovered from archaeological sites, to carefully remove circular sections of bone without damaging the sensitive brain tissue beneath. But why perform such a risky procedure? The Druids operated with dual purpose, both medical and spiritual. They believed trepanation could relieve pressure from head injuries, treat seizures, and release evil spirits causing mental illness. More fascinating still, some researchers suggest trepanation was performed on perfectly healthy individuals as part of spiritual initiation rituals. The theory goes that the opening in the skull created a third eye or portal through which the initiate could access otherworldly knowledge and communicate with ancestors. Analysis of some trepan skulls shows they belong to high-status individuals, suggesting this dangerous procedure might have been a mark of spiritual elevation. The Druids' understanding of the connection between physical and spiritual healing was sophisticated beyond their time. They recognized the brain as the seat of consciousness centuries before this became medical consensus. Female power. The firelight dances across her face as she speaks, and kings fall silent. This is no ordinary woman. This is a bandruí, a female druid, and her words carry the weight of both law and prophecy. History has largely erased these powerful women from our understanding of Druidic culture, but archaeological and textual evidence reveals they were central to Celtic society. The bandruí served as judges, healers, political advisors, and seers. In Irish mythology, the bandruí Bodmul trained the hero Finn McCool, while historical accounts mention female druids prophesying for emperors. One Roman account describes how a female druid correctly predicted Emperor Alexander Severus's death, calling out to him in Gaulish, "Go, but do not hope for victory." nor trust your soldier. What made these women particularly remarkable was their independence in a world where women typically had limited autonomy. They owned property, conducted rituals, and most importantly, spoke with authority in political matters. Archaeological evidence from high-status female burials shows Druidic symbols and tools, suggesting these weren't merely wives of male Druids, but practitioners in their own right. The Romans found this particularly disturbing. Female religious authority challenged their patriarchal worldview. When they described the island of Senna, modern Seine, off the coast of Brittany, they wrote of 9 female Druids who could raise storms with their incantations, transform themselves into animals, cure the incurable, and predict the future. This combination of political influence and spiritual authority made the bandruí both respected and feared, a legacy that would later fuel medieval witch hunts as Christianity sought to eradicate these last vestiges of female spiritual power. 2-decade training. Dawn breaks over a secluded grove as a young apprentice recites complex verses for the 20th year in a row. This wasn't casual education. Becoming a Druid required extraordinary commitment. Julius Caesar, in his commentaries on the Gallic War, described Druidic training lasting up to 20 years, longer than modern medical school and residency combined. During this time, apprentices memorized vast amounts of knowledge, thousands of verses of sacred poetry, astronomical calculations, genealogies of tribes, legal precedents, medicinal properties of plants, and the complex calendar system. Nothing was written down, as Druids believed writing sacred knowledge would both profane it and make it accessible to the unworthy. This oral tradition required phenomenal memory techniques that cognitive scientists are still trying to understand today. The training followed a carefully structured progression through 3 main ranks: ovates, healers and seers, bards, keepers of story and song, and finally Druids, the highest level of philosophical and judicial authority. Each level required mastering specific knowledge and passing rigorous tests. The most promising students were sent to the equivalent of universities in sacred locations like the island of Anglesey, where the highest mysteries were taught. This educational system produced individuals with extraordinary mental capabilities, Druids who could calculate complex astronomical events without instruments, recall the entire history of their people, and navigate sophisticated ethical and legal problems. When we consider that this knowledge was transmitted entirely through memory for hundreds of years, the achievement becomes even more remarkable. The destruction of this educational system by the Romans represents one of the greatest intellectual losses of the ancient world. Astronomical expertise. Under a vast night sky, a Druid traces the path of celestial bodies with a measuring stick, making calculations that would impress modern astronomers. The Druids' understanding of astronomy went far beyond simple observation. They created sophisticated calendars that tracked both solar and lunar cycles with remarkable precision. The famous Coligny calendar, discovered in France in 1897, is a bronze tablet dating to the 1st century CE that reveals the complexity of Druidic timekeeping. It's a lunisolar calendar with intricate calculations for intercalary months, extra months added to align lunar and solar years, showing mathematical understanding that rivals contemporary Mediterranean civilizations. The calendar divides days into lucky and unlucky periods, coordinates agricultural activities with celestial events, and predicts eclipses, all without the telescopic technology we associate with astronomical advancement. The Druids' legacy persists in unexpected places, in our calendar systems, folk traditions, and our fascination with the mysterious forces that shape our world. They weren't primitive mystics, but sophisticated intellectuals who integrated practical knowledge with spiritual insight. As you walk through forests or gaze at stars, remember, you're seeing the same world the Druids saw, and perhaps, if you look closely enough, you might glimpse some of the patterns they recognized in the turning of the great wheel of existence.